I'm Matt Landau from VRMB.com, and this is Unlocked, Season 7, Unglamorous. This episode's brought to you by Point Central, the leaders in smart home automation, and Breezeway, a property care and operations platform. Stacy Wesson is the owner and operator of Cascara Vacation Rentals in Sun River, Oregon. She's one of what I refer to as the new class of vacation rental managers whose extraordinary planning and focus on what she wants, plus her fierce avoidance of what she thinks is toxic, leads to a sustainably profitable family business that's run with special people she enjoys working with and serving. In this interview, we discuss the core projects Stacy's deeply focused on right now after 30 years of successful family business, as well as the red flags she'd like everybody to see coming from a mile away. I'd like to think of this as something of a cottage industry dream in all of its unglamorous beauty. Let's do it.
I grew up in this business, and so I just remember, my parents being busy all summer and a lot of stress. I think growing up in that household, there was some stress to this business. They were just starting it. My dad had started a porta potty company called Little John's.
I love that name.
Yes. He's much like me. The entrepreneur kind of got that from him, but he decided to do something else, worked for the state for a while, and then went ahead and my mom had a housekeeping business, and he kind of piggybacked the rental side off of that. So I've just, ever since can remember, I've been in this business. And so that's been good and bad. I think the fun part is because I grew up in a resort community, we had a babysitter and we'd search the house for change and then ride our bikes down to the local ice cream shop and go to the pool. So living in the resort community does have its perks.
Sun River is almost exclusively a vacation destination. There are people who live there full time.
There are people. So it's about probably 20% to 30% that live here full time. And then another 20% that have vacation homes, but they're just for their use. And then about 50% is vacation rentals now. And
so most of the business in town revolves around visitors.
Correct. Yeah. So we have some restaurants, a village mall that has some activities, and that really is only here because of the vacation rentals. The homeowners would not be able to sustain those businesses without us.
And when you first started formally working at the business, what was your earliest job description?
I was probably front desk would have been my earliest job description, helping out, taking reservations.
And are people wandering into the office and asking questions, stuff like that?
Yes. So we have a full office, and we're in the mall now, which we've been for the last probably 5 years. And we get a lot of foot traffic, which is nice to see people out, because with door locks and all the technology these days, there's a lack of talking to people face to face.
And so you start off as front desk, and we all know that vacation rental success requires all these different skills and wearing multiple hats. So did you eventually get moved around to different departments?
Yes. I think I've worked in every department but maintenance. I ran housekeeping for a summer, which is like ground zero. It's horrible. It's talk about getting your feet wet.
Talk about unglamorous.
Yes, it is very unglamorous. And I learned a lot. I probably learned more from that position than working in the office for 10 years, working under our old general manager, and then just being in the family business for all this time. I took a hiatus for a while. And then this business does this to you. It just draws you back. So I came back about 5 to 6 years ago, actually.
And I think that's a nice way of putting it, that the business draws you back. And in that hiatus time, you had a chance to really think about it. Like, I'm a young professional. What am I going to do with my life? And you decide to take over the family business. So my first question is, what did your parents do ahead of time that you think made that process easy for you? And you can tell what my follow-up is going to be.
I think because I was back in the business, and I love ideas. I have a zillion ideas all the time. And I think they just saw that, okay, she's back. She does want this as a future. And so we had that conversation of, let's go forward with this. No one else in the family wanted to take it on. And at that time, they weren't big selling features. Now you can sell your vacation rental company quite easily these days, but that is kind of how I got into it. And then I started making some changes and we kind of went from there.
And so in that sense, and this interview is going to be primarily about those changes, but were there things that you wish they had done differently in this, ahead of this transition period?
I think it would have been nicer if they would have got more into the technology. So when I started working back, we were still using a DOS-based system. So I couldn't hire anybody under 30 that would even know how to use that system. So I think when I took it over, I had to change so much into the new technology that portion was hard. But other than that, I think they did fairly well. Family's always complicated, of course.
And so this kind of brings us up to today, the crossroads that we're at. And you, Stacy, were selected as one of our early members of the VRMB community's Accelerator program, which was, together with Jed Stevens, designed to help in a little bit more of a hands-on way some vacation rental companies that were looking to grow. And that growth took a number of different forms for our other colleagues. But I'm curious, before we get into some of these main projects that you now have on your radar as moving this company into the future, I'm curious if there was anything big that you took away from that first module of the Accelerator, which was all about research.
Yeah, I really love the Accelerator program. I am excited for what's next and looking forward to more of that program because it is such a great program. I think what it did for me, and it's kind of an odd one, but I felt like it gave me confidence that I do know what I'm doing in this business because I've been coming and going for over 30 years and going through some of the stuff. I'm like, oh, I've already done some of this. Now, if I was just starting out, oh my gosh, this would have been so helpful to have started the Accelerator program from the very beginning. But as I went back and looked at things, I'm like, oh, I already know this answer. And there's a few things I may not know. But for the most part, I think it really is building my confidence as I go into the future with this company that I do have some knowledge and skill set and ideas to share with the world. So
I love that. I mean, I think that applies to all vacation rental professionals. At some point, they'll either meet another manager or they'll find a blog or something, and they'll be like, wait a minute, I've been doing it right. Like my instinct was right all along. This is the path. This is the way. And just having that defined clearly as the north, I think is reassuring for a lot of people. And one of your successes that we talked about preserving and really focusing on came in the customer service department, and specifically in terms of being excellent at customer service. And I remember you were asked what companies do you look up to the most, and you referenced Southwest Airlines and Chick-fil-A, that are two companies whose customer service reputations are something that you like to think you emulate. Talk to us about how, as the new jefe, as the boss, you keep that front and center.
It is hard because one of the things the vacation rentals, me as myself, is I know that I will sell my customers well, I will treat them well, but you get employees involved. And we all know in any business, when employees get involved, it's harder to maintain your value system, your cores, all of that. And so we've worked really hard here to make sure that our staff realize how important customer service is, especially in today's world with all the things that can go on. You get a bad review, all of that. And so we really talk to our staff about, hey, when people come in, be nice, smile, especially nowadays, we don't ever see anybody. It's like we're all in our little own bubbles here. And sometimes I think we talk too much anymore lately because we finally see someone, we're like, oh my gosh, it's a person, talk to them. But, just training this new generation of people that are younger. A lot of my staff right now are 18 to 24. And so it's a different mindset of this old school. I call it old school because I feel like the older generations have done it well with communicating and not just, one of the things I have to train is, hey, you have to make phone calls. And it's like, what, a phone call? How do you do that? What is that? We're all just so tech savvy that I'm like trying to bring back that doing the old school, doing the work. If someone comes in here and asks you a question, do not tell them to Google it. You or Google, you do the research. And we had an experience in another vacation rental company that, they just basically told their customer they couldn't help them. And a guy walked into our stop and said, "Hey, I need tennis courts." My staff helped him find all the information needed. And a couple hours later, he brought them back chocolate.
That wasn't even a guest.
No, that wasn't even a guest of ours. Because I've always said it doesn't matter. Because we love this job. This job is so fun. It has some unglamorous sides, absolutely. But the fun part, you have to really lean into that so that when the unglamorous parts come, you can kind of, okay, yes, but there's the people that bring us chocolate. Remember the people that bring us chocolate. So that's kind of where we are. And since we're right in the mall, we do get a lot more foot traffic than other companies that are outside or, the companies that are just virtual.
And that sort of go to all lengths to satisfy the people who walk in the door. That must have some limits. And I think one of the big hindsight lessons that you shared in the Accelerator program was there will be bad apples as you grow. The more guests you host, the more it becomes a numbers game, and the more likely you will run into that difficult person that you just can't satisfy. So what has been kind of your hindsight lesson in that?
And what I learned early on is from previous managers and my father is just, don't offer too much, because the person, it's usually that bad apple. You can offer them $100 refund, $1,000. They're still not going to be happy. There's just no way to make them happy. So don't overgive because I think sometimes when we do stuff, and my new manager is learning this a little bit because he's new to the industry, but he'll give somebody something back and just have some great rapport, and then they'll go leave a bad review. And he gets so frustrated by that. And it's like, that's going to happen, unfortunately. So we want to go out knowing that we've done what we can within reason. There's a lot of times, people are upset because we had a renter the other day that was upset because the cable went out or the Wi-Fi cable, everything went out. Some big fiber cord got hit. But they were like, it would have been really nice if you would have told us this, and just kind of went off on a little rant. And I'm like, it would have been nice for us if we would have known, but we don't have the crystal ball to go, yes, the power is going to go out today. The Wi-Fi is going to go out. And renters do expect a lot more, completely a lot more. And so it's harder sometimes to even meet their criteria, which sometimes is just unrealistic in this area.
And based off of your now 30 plus years of data, is there any way to see the bad apples coming, or is there any way to repel the bad apples and attract more of the good apples, or is it just a numbers game?
I think it can be a little bit of both. I think one thing that we do that we find out about the bad apples and maybe keep them as just a semi-bad apple by the time they get here is anybody that's automatically calling ahead of time and saying, any demands. If renters start saying, I expect 4:00 is check-in, so I will be checking in at 4:00. And it's like, okay, well, it starts at 4. We try to give some good verbiage, but anytime we see the demands or people that are already using those terms that are like, okay, they're not going to be happy. So we try to actually, when we see those, combat them ahead of time by saying, hey, we have a labor shortage crisis here. It's probably not going to be 4. It's going to be 6. Trying to get their expectations ahead of time when they already bring it to us. That is a huge thing. And we kind of flag them because those are going to be the renters that if everything is not perfect, they're going to fall apart. And so by preemptively doing it, and then sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't care what we have to do, get this guy in at 4. Otherwise, we're never going to hear the end of it. It's just going to be easier to do that. And that's kind of how we combat some of the bad apples. Every once in a while, we can send them away and just know, hey, we did our due diligence. There's only so much you can do. But they're really hard to find out unless they're the ones that email you quickly or text you before they even get here. I think recently we've actually even just canceled the stay because we just felt like they were going to be so unreasonable that it wasn't worth my staff's stress and having to deal with them. And so we did say, you know what, we'll go ahead and give you your money back. This just isn't going to work out.
I'm guessing on the flip side of that is when you do have somebody who you think is respectful, who does have fair expectations, and you kind of you do your best. You be flexible and you go to certain lengths that maybe a normal corporation wouldn't do when it comes to accommodating both guests and owners. Talk to me a little bit about how your flexibility in terms of special requests or exceptions help build a little cushion there for you, and what that results in terms of bookings and bottom line.
Yeah, we really, when people are nice to us, I will tell renters, you want a secret, be really nice to your property manager, because it's just so much easier and fun to go above and beyond for people that, are willing to work with you. And so that has been huge when we, to be able to help people out and take care of them. That's what we're here for. We want people to have a good time. We don't want people to be upset. That's our main goal, is for them to have a really good Cascara experience with their trip. They can't always be perfect, but we strive to do the best we can. And so, it's hard because we have two customers to make happy. And sometimes those customers butt up against each other, and that can be hard. And one of the things we have done, because we're not corporate and we do really care about our people, our renters and our owners, is we've had fires. We are in an area that has fires. And when there's fires here and the smoke and the level is too bad, we're one of the few companies that actually will, in rare occasions, give money back, or will hold the money for a future use. We'll say, hey, you don't need to deal with this right now. The smoke's here. You have asthma, don't come. The home doesn't have air conditioning. You're going to be not doing well. So we'll hold on to your money. And in a year, within the next year, when it's not smoky, sometimes it was a few weeks later, they could rebook their stay. And we also do that with people that have emergencies. We did it with COVID, where we get life happens. And so we'll have people call us in tears, my mother died, something like that. We're like, hey, stop. You go take care of you. We're here for when you want to come back. And sometimes we'll give money back, et cetera. But by being so flexible, it is amazing how much return clientele we get over that. And because people are just, in today's world, especially sometimes in the travel industry, it's like, nope, you're out your money. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking about the experiences that I've had with whatever kind of company, and that special gesture that made me feel sort of cared for, or at least like respected in some way, which is just the polar opposite from this is the rules, adios, dude. It really endeared me. It took what was otherwise a negative experience and turned it into something that I champion. I'd like to talk a little bit about your quote unquote growth, growing your inventory, which we kind of settled on may end up meaning tweaking and tightening the bolts and controlling the quality more so than finding more properties. So can you give us first kind of an overarching update on what's your inventory strategy right now?
We have about 85 homes and condos in our program. And in the years, we used to be at 150 or 160, and more players came into our area. So that's changed. But with quality control the way it is, and how hard it is really to maintain some of these homes, we thought, let's do smaller numbers. Let's stay at 80, but let's get the best 80. So homes that, they're not maintaining, the owners don't want to keep up, don't have any amenities. If we can drop some of those bottom rung houses so that we can pick up more houses that, we want, when people stay at Cascara, they know that it always comes with the pool passes. So that's something we're working on, getting every homeowner to pay, or I pay for the pool passes. Just kind of, they know when they stay with Cascara, they get the pool passes, they get games. There's maybe a ping pong table or a pool table. And so we want the owners of our homes to be on board with that. And our area has, I feel like, even though we've been doing vacation rentals for, 38 years in this area, I feel like we still have some older school things where, the house is fine. It doesn't matter what condition is in, or, but now with new renters, they kind of expect everything top notch. And so we're trying to decide, we don't want to do the 200, 500 homes, the quantity. We want more of the quality aspect. And I still think we're there, but with as much people that have been coming in lately, it's like, I keep getting pulled like, well, maybe we should just take all homes. But I know in my mind it's bad. So I keep telling myself, my staff is really good at telling me, no, stay the course, because that's what I've really learned over 30 years. We tried to be the catch-all for everybody. Oh, you want to do that? We can do that. And when you do that, it's when you have 10 homes, that's probably fine. But once you start getting 60, 70, 80, 100 homes, you cannot be all things to all people. And I think that's where we're going to kind of, I've grown in this business and say, okay, I know what I'm doing. I'm going to get a little backbone and say, this is the future of Cascara, and get the homes that meet that goal.
Yes, I'm here like pumping my fists in my office by myself. I absolutely love everything you just said. And share with folks your current process of analyzing properties using something as simple as a spreadsheet, and what it means to be a profitable property and a good property for Cascara versus those bottom rung properties.
We actually are still working on putting something together. When I have my leadership meeting with my staff in a few weeks, we're going to kind of this September say, okay, here's what we're doing, and not drop everybody at once because we need some time. But basically our criteria is going to be, the home does not have to be perfect. It does not. Old homes, homes that are decorated in the 80s, that is okay. We'd like to work them up into the 90s, 2000s. But basically what our renters want is they want something that works. So if the furniture is dated, but it's comfortable and it's not broken, then that's fine. So just homes that are in good shape. Nothing's broken, nothing's been jerry-rigged to, hold together, anything like that. Homeowners that want to rent their homes, I know that sounds funny, but we have had some in the past homeowners that kind of want to rent their home. Like maybe we rent it out 25% of the time and they use it the other time. They just aren't cost effective. We're in a hiring crisis right now in our area. And with staffing, I can't afford to just clean for them when they stay. So getting rid of any homes that aren't, they're just cleaning. We have a security program where we just maintain homes, and all we do is drive by the home once a week to make sure, it's locked, it's secured, everything's working. And why that's been a great service to offer, it's really pulling away from us being able to do the best we can for our vacation rental side. So narrowing down all of those into, hey, this is what Cascara does. We are a vacation rental company. We are not a cleaning company, a security company. And it'll be hard with some of those because we've had some of these owners for 30 years. So we might keep some just until they sell their house or decide not to use us anymore. And that's kind of relationships we have in our company. I have homeowners now that I'm working with their children, or, they're in their 80s and 90s that have been with us for this long. So that's kind of where we're looking as far as getting the what Cascara is as a company and going forward. And that's kind of our list. And then owners that are difficult, sorry, we're going to be strong and say, nope.
And so the idea would be that you identify the ones that are the least profitable, the least easy to work with, and you remove them. And then you look to duplicate the ones that are at the top.
Yes. And so some of this seems simple, like I should have thought of it years ago. But yeah, we have some great homes. And, we just want more of those because I can run my company off of, half. If we had, probably right now, I could run my home off, or my company off 40 of the homes we have versus 80. Some of those bottom ones, they just drain at your resources. And, my mom ran this company probably the last 5 years, or before I started taking over, in a place of fear because, 2008 hit us really hard. And so you didn't want to lose any client. So we took every client on. And over the years, we've learned that doesn't actually work. It doesn't give you more money. It doesn't bring in more customers or anything like that. You just have a bunch of difficult customers that are pulling you in too many different directions. And so I think it was last year, or the year before, I think it was last year during COVID, again, during a global pandemic, we decided, hey, I'm going to drop some homeowners that aren't working for us anymore. And I finally did it. And it was for my staff too, the respect that I felt like they just really were so thankful because they're sadly the ones that get the brunt of it all. I don't always get the, yelled at or stuff like that from homeowners. So I think it was really eye-opening to finally bite the bullet and yep. All right. We dumped some of our homeowners. I think we now have a list sometimes going though. And it's like, okay, we can't get rid of everybody, but we get some people that are like, okay, they're on the list. And for the respect of my staff, that's kind of, and probably I should say myself, it's important to, your staff are in the trenches of dealing with some of these people who are just not nice people. And it's not fair to my staff to keep those people.
If the relationships are the big difference maker in our industry. Build strong relationships, you get to do good business for a long time. It's the toxic relationships that are almost the kryptonite, that you almost, if you don't identify them and remove them from the equation, they become they defeat you. And if someone's listening to this, Stacy, and let's say they have 2 properties and they're thinking about growing their company maybe to 5 or maybe to 8 or to 20, do you think this idea of being selective, of being picky, is kind of the secret way that anybody can achieve that?
I think so. And going back, because if you think about it, and it's hard when you have 2, like, and sometimes you don't know the picky owners. We try to vet them a little bit, but it's really hard until you get them on your program for a while and then you see some of the nuances and stuff like that. So, but going back, I think we wasted more money, even if you just have 2 houses and, oh gosh, if I get rid of one, then I'm back down to 1, there is stress there and pressure. And so, but the amount of time you usually spend on these people, I mean, we dropped 2 back in the fall, I think 2 to 4 within the last couple months, or that time period when I dropped some people. And like literally almost like 25% of our work problems went away. It was amazing. Like, just like, oh, I don't have to deal with that person every week because his towel is in the wrong bedroom, or, all those things. I mean, you'll get owners like that all the time. So that's a bad one, but just, calling me every time because he wants to change something again and again. It's like, it was amazing how much free time I had and how I didn't hate my job in the morning because I didn't have to go, oh, is he calling again? Or is she calling again? Whoever it was. And so it's hard though, when you're in the trenches of 2 to 8 homes, it is hard. One of my favorite sayings from my dad when he first started, someone had asked him how many homes he has. And he goes, well, I have you. And if I pick up 4 more, I'll have 5. And so it's that, I have 5 homes if I pick up 4 more. So I just love the fact that he was kind of saying, well, I only have 1 right now, but hey, I'm going to have more.
Is part of, because I know you've been struggling with pet-friendly homes. You've identified it as something that attracts the right kinds of guests, but you're also struggling to figure out how they work. Is that an example of sort of trial and error, trying out new kinds of properties or niches and paying close attention to how it's working and adjusting accordingly?
Yes. Pet homes is still on my radar for trying to figure out what in the world to do. We live in Oregon, which, I mean, it is a pet-friendly state. Sun River is a very outdoorsy area. And so people travel and pets are like family. And it's hard because pets are so hard on a home. They can ruin the carpet. We had a dog chew a windowsill one time. They are just destructive, and not in a bad way, just being pets. They jump up on a door. It could easily scratch. You have the cases where renters do leave their dogs in a home, not realizing that, yes, your dog is fine at home, but this is a totally new area for them. So they are going to bark or scratch. So I'm trying to figure out, buying some scratch mats to put on the door. That's one of our things going in the fall that we're probably going to buy. I saw them on Chewy, but you put it on the back of a doorknob. So if a dog does jump up, he's just scratching the plastic. They have windowsill things that we are looking to purchase to put on all the windowsills where a dog might jump up. The hard part of that is expenses. This business is full of expenses and sometimes not a good return. So it's figuring out, okay, is that my responsibility? Should that be the owner's? We're in a super competitive market, so we try not to bring too much to the owners for that reason. But just finding something, because we collect the pet fees, we try to have staff do extra stuff, because the next time someone comes into that home, they may not have a pet. They don't want to see evidence of a pet. And so the staffing to make sure that we're getting rid of all the pet hair, removing things, bringing in new things, that new blankets or something if something was damaged. So it's one of those things that, pet fees get expensive, and ours isn't as, we're midline in our area, but it's always to a cost. And it's hard to figure out, what that cost is going to be that's going to make all 3 parties happy: myself, my renter, and my homeowner. And I've lost a few pet homes recently because of the fact that owners are just tired of, having the upkeep of a pet.
I want to talk a little bit about technology, because that's often something that legacy companies, for lack of a better word, they leave areas for improvement, and whoever acquires them whether it's a family member or an entirely new group, can insert technology to make the business more profitable without changing any of the other raw materials. First of all, what has been your attitude about technology as it applies to this family business when you take over?
So yeah, I would say, like I mentioned with the DOS-based system we were using, I was the one that first brought in, I think we were with Escapia. That was the first like digital version, or not digital, I don't know what you call it, but online platform that we used. And then that was the biggest stretch because my parents are in their late 60s, early 70s. I'm in my mid 40s. But technology changed a lot in the last 15 years. And even, I mean, obviously now it's monthly, yearly, but me coming in with all these, like, we need new software, that was a huge pain point between my family and I trying to get the new software. Like, it's time to upgrade.
And now a word from our sponsors. I can't tell you how often this happens, that our sponsors are mentioned organically in the conversation. And candidly, this is how we chose them as sponsors. If a company's being raved about nonstop, there's got to be something really good going on there.
Now we have a tech stack. What was a tech stack 5 years ago? I don't know, but now I know. I have, we brought in Breezeway, which has just helped tremendously. It has too much knowledge sometimes can be hard, but it's a great system for keeping our housekeeping and maintenance running smoothly. We are the last people in our area that went to the door locks. So we just signed up with Point Central this last spring and have been putting door locks in. And, we liked seeing people with the old school keys, but when the pandemic happened, that was really hard having to deal with keys. And so that tech was definitely needed.
Stacy already did a great job of explaining why you should consider using them both. So I'll just take the chance to point you to their websites, plus a special opportunity. PointCentral.com/VRMB will get you a free demo, plus a white paper, all about building the ultimate technology stack that I wrote with the help of Point Central's president, Sean Miller, and the vacation rental software guy, Terry White. That's PointCentral.com/VRMB, plus Breezeway.io/VRMB, where after a demo, you'll get the implementation fee, $1,000 waived, if you decide to onboard. That's Breezeway.io/VRMB. All right, let's get back to this delicious conversation.
We bought in dynamic pricing this year, which has been a game changer. We brought in 2 more. We're going to use Safely probably, and Explory we just signed up with. So we are bringing a lot of tech to this business. And that's one of the things that we really wanted to do in me taking it over, just bring us into the, the century of of what things are. I mean, there's so much tech out there. It's mind numbing sometimes because I literally get an offer every day about the new greatest tech, and it's all great, but who pays for it? It's expensive.
So how do you look at, you mentioned a couple specific companies there. Do you look at how they connect back to your bottom line? Like, what is that little path that you trace?
Yes, a lot of times I do, because this industry I feel like can sometimes not have the biggest return. It seems like a lot of money, but between payroll and all the tech stuff, it's hard. So we have to see if, hey, can I get the owners to pay for it? Can I get the customers to pay for it? Fees are one way. I know fees are a huge topic, and our fees are competitive in our area. We try not to be too high, but that's another way that we cover some of this, because everybody wants a percentage or a dollar of your rental, and it can get very cost effective and to the point where you're not making a profit. And so we try to pick the best stack that either will save us in labor or bring us something that other companies don't have, that we can maybe advertise, hey, we got free activities for you to do, or once we join with Safely here in the next couple of weeks, we have some background check and some stuff going on that helps.
I love that prism that you just described. Either it's going to save our team costs or labor, or it's going to bring us a new attribute or feature that our competitors don't offer. What are some of the things that you refuse to automate? Like, you have that small handful of really amazing key players and leaders that you mentioned earlier. What kinds of activities are you preserving for them to focus their limited time on?
Yeah, I think really it's getting less and less, sadly, but I do know, we try to, when we have homeowners, I want them to call the people. Don't just automatically use the texting. That's so easy. But really making sure we're keeping that connection. Go out to the home, show up. That's a big thing that I think, even if we cannot solve their problem, I want my maintenance guy to go out there and go, yes, your air conditioner's broken. There's nothing I can do, but showing until we get somebody out there to take care of it. But, half the time just showing up, that in person, like, oh, they really do care about my problem. They're here trying to work on it, is a huge deal. And talking to people and calling them back, it's so easy to get in the texting and doing all of the things. But I think that's my one big thing going back to customer service is, if they call us, then we call them back. It's not they gave us an email so we can email them. It's like, no, they called for a reason, or they're walking into our office for a reason. So we're going to give them that personal one-on-one touch of actually speaking to them, because anymore, everything's automated. We send out Breezeway texts. We send out, we have Rubaru guest guidebook, which is awesome. But again, it's taking more and more of us actually talking from the renter. And I think that's our biggest thing that I do want to keep, regardless of all the tech, is that one-on-one conversation, the personable meeting with people.
Listeners, this is worth a brief thought marination. You want to automate as many of the unglamorous aspects as possible. Here's talking to you, spreadsheet warrior, so that you can look for, like a heat-seeking missile, the opportunities to connect the old-fashioned way. This will not happen if you don't proactively do it, and often. Just think about that.
You've talked about often in the Accelerator program of viewing prospective investments from an owner perspective. And I think from a guest perspective is something we talk about often. What is this like if I put myself in the shoes of my guests? But from the owner perspective, as a property manager, it's not always in the front of mind. It's not always relatable. So is that just something that you're always looking at?
Yes, because a lot of owners, like, even the door locks and Breezeway and Rubaru and all these things that are really great for the guest, they don't always see it on their side, nor sometimes do they get the benefit of some of these technologies. Obviously, the door lock, they do. But I think so much, and we're actually trying to figure out how to reach out to our homeowners this fall and tell them how much we do. I think so much goes beyond what they see. And all they see sometimes is, oh, you're taking 30% of my commission or whatever the commission is, but they don't see that, okay, well, we have to put you on all these OTAs. We have to put you on all these tech things. And they don't see that. It's much like when they fix their roof or siding. I'm like, great, but your house is in the 70s and that would have been more for me. I get you have to take care of the outside of your house, but renters don't care that you just replaced your roof. How about the TV that is, on the floor still? So I think it's that aspect of them not understanding a lot of what goes into vacation rentals. I really do think they think it's simple in some ways. From some of the requests I get, I just feel like that, like, why can't my rugs be in the same area I left them in? And it's like, I don't know why. Renters don't like them there. I don't know. My staff doesn't like them there. They're there for a reason. They disappear. I don't know. And it's hard for them to understand really all of the nuances, like when they just say, oh, I'm going to show up at 2 because that's my house. I can check in whenever. And it's like, not really. You still have to follow. We're still short staffed. It doesn't matter that you're the owner. So I do think there's a lot. And one of the things I want to work on this fall is how can we bridge that gap and bring our owners in to understand how much goes into renting, that it's not just, back in the day, my husband laughs at this now, we would put ads in the Register Guard, which was a newspaper in Eugene, Oregon, because that's how we advertised. There was no Craigslist. There was, we were in Sunset Magazine, all these old school ways of now doing advertising. But there's a lot more to it. And, I have homeowners all the time. Well, why don't we have this? Well, that cost me $100,000 just to implement. And they're like, oh, it seems like not a big deal, but yeah, there is a lot of process there that I would like to figure out how to best help them understand what we're doing.
It's a very tall ask for a property manager to educate the mainstream traveler population of what goes into a professional vacation rental experience. This is not your hobbyist Airbnb. And simultaneously educate homeowners all the work that goes into good management in any given destination. So maybe there's not a easy answer to that anytime soon, but I think it's neat that you've identified a communication gap, and that perhaps even a little bit of a better understanding of what goes into your guys' great work earns a little bit better respect or loyalty, or really just realistic expectations, no?
Yeah, and there's so much that I know with even staffing in technology is my staff is young, like I say, and it's hard to find maintenance people in this area in general, because I do think, the younger generation, even my husband doesn't know a lot of um, maintenance type things because we all played video games. We all went to the tech side of the world. And so just trying to find, I have homeowners like, well, can't you fix this blind? I'm like, no, I have no one that knows how to restring a blind now because that's not taught. Simple fixes with washers and dryers. I used to have staff that would be able to take it apart and look at it and really know. And now I have people that don't do that. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that in our industry we're now missing. And homeowners don't always get that, hey, it's going to cost me more because I got to call a vendor out now to fix your dishwasher that's going to cost you $200, which back in the day may have only cost $50 because we could figure it out. And so it's just some of those things that are nuances that they're not getting either in what our staff has, what the capabilities have. We have amazing staff, but they just have different tech, or they just have different skill sets.
Stacy, you for me are someone who really epitomizes this new generation of vacation rental management. You know everything that goes into creating a world-class hospitality experience, but you also recognize the areas for leaps of innovation, leaps of improvement on what you took over from your parents. And I think one of the things that makes you very savvy in this regard is that you do look at all of these things in terms of your bottom line. Like, it's a great idea to adopt tech, but how does it actually impact our business? You look at expectations and precious team members, and you look, how is this going to contribute to a better stay, more reviews, more direct bookings, et cetera. One of the sort of, as you called them, old school aspects that you've been sort of humming on now for a while is your relationships in the local community. And this is one that I oftentimes find myself suggesting people do, but I struggle with connecting it back to their bottom line. Like, this is exactly why you should do it. So would you mind just in hindsight sharing how your relationships with people like the police and the fire chief and the rental organization, how does that play a role in your day-to-day profit?
Yeah, sometimes those are hard to see because, me talking to the police chief is not going to help my bottom line tomorrow. But it's knowing that by me telling my homeowners, hey, I have a great relationship with the police chief, with the fire chief, we're making sure our homes are safe, making sure the people come here are good people. Building those relationships are so important. And it's hard because, the last thing we want to do is join a committee because those can be so mind-numbingly, especially an HOA committee, which is what I did in our homeowners association. The Center for Homeowners Association is the Geico commercial where they're cutting down the mailbox and they're cutting off, I can't remember exactly, but if you remember that commercial, that is the HOA that I deal with. I've grown up with it. And you can't have bikes in the driveway. I mean, it's bad. It was hilarious growing up. They've gotten better, not much, but you can't even have like beach towels across the back deck. So, but by meeting with them, what is done for me and my company and going forward, and it's really important, is there were several other homeowners on that, that committee that they didn't rent their houses out. The only experience they had is how much the neighbors of the rental house next to them is driving them nuts. And so when they heard my voice, heard me talk and say, hey, we do this. And if you would just call us, I don't want my renters being a nuisance. So if they're a nuisance to you, call me. I will absolutely, go over there, find out what's going on. And now they're always calling me or saying, they're spreading my name. Like, hey, if you want to do vacation rentals, please do Cascara. They're going to call and make sure their renters are being respectful of the area. We live in a small community. 3 women in a hot tub could get the cops called on them after 10 o'clock at night on the right street, So we have some older, homes that don't want this to be a vacation rental area, but it's kind of a resort community. So it is what you get. But those relationships have really helped me get the word out because, as you know, vacation rentals are getting a really bad rap right now in the world. And I don't want that for this area. And so by me reaching out to some of those companies, it really has helped get my name on the board of, hey, that's one of those good ones. That's one that cares that there's people partying in the house. Because usually if they're disrupting so much, they're probably doing damage to my home and I don't want them there. I had another company in this area, they are doing this and I'm going to steal it from them, but they send out a letter to every neighbor when they get a vacation rental. And it tells that owner, hey, I'm going to be managing this house on your street. If you ever have a problem, give me a call. And I really liked that idea because I've had a lot of times where a homeowner will come to their house 6 months later and goes, well, there are 6 dogs at my house. Well, the neighbor told me all about it. I'm like, he didn't call me, so I can't help it now, 6 months later. And so getting those relationships with other people so that you can say, hey, I'm not one of the bad guys. I want to maintain our beautiful area. I don't want you to be dealing with renters every other weekend that are disrupting your way of life. And really, by getting some of those relationships, it really does make a difference in my bottom line. I could have a homeowner, I could pick up 4 homes from it in a sense. So that's, that kind of money is huge. You can't, buy that sometimes, but that's kind of why I do get those relationships out there. Plus they're the first ones that call me, the police chief, or they'll call me when they say they have an idea and I can tell them, oh, that's not going to work for us in the vacation rental world. So I get my piece in there too, before they just decide, let's make a blanketed rule that's going to affect my company.
And do you have bad apples on the management side, the hosting side, that are threatening to ruin the bunch?
Yes. And they're the bigger companies that just don't have a foot in the ground here. And, I have one homeowner I feel bad for. There's nothing she can do. I mean, there's things you can do, but it's such a long process that, there's a party there. Well, we don't care. The owner, we have some bad owners that don't care. They want their house to make money and they don't care that if the renters were disruptive. And so if that's their only view, like, hey, that's the only experience they have a vacation rental, it's not a good one. And so if I can give them hope and say, hey, no, this is not what vacation rentals is about. This is about families having fun, golf groups coming down, other people, it's about people enjoying the area. And if they're not treating it with respect, then that's not people I want in my homes either. And so it's been that fine line of that. And then there's some bad apple owners that will, you can't have a boat in the driveway after 48 hours. Well, I had a renter show up. They had a boat. They'd been there 5 minutes. The guy called me 3 times. I finally told my front desk, call the police on him. We have a little local police, so we can do those kind of things. And let them educate him because he's not believing us that they have 48 hours. Plus, they literally just got there, maybe give him 5 minutes to settle, and maybe they'll put the boat in the garage. I don't know. But so we have the bad apple owners, too, that cause grief for our staff and our renters.
And taking one step back out, when you take over this business and you go through this refreshing process or resetting process or makeover process or whatever word you want to use, you're looking at the areas that were strong that you want to double down on, and you're looking for the areas that could be improved to really up your game and take this to the level that you want it to be. What is your hope for the impact that this has, like, on you and your family's life? Is this something that you intend to run forever?
I go back and forth. There's good days and bad days. This business does this to you. It draws you in, kicks you out. It's just, it's a funny business. Over the years, I've never been anything else like it. That kind of, sometimes it's a love-hate relationship. But I think, this is my family's, they built this business. This is their retirement. And because they gave anything of theirs up so they could keep this business going and keep, to support the employees they have and to support my brother and I in the future. And so there's the stress of now it's in my hands to make sure that they have a retirement in this business and that I carry on that legacy. In this world, it's so hard because, especially in this industry, you've said it before in some of your podcasts, that there's going to be a lot of offers on the bigger companies trying to buy out the smaller companies. And I kind of want to not do that to keep the small guys afloat. Like, we can do this. We're special. There's a reason we're small. I want to carry this on for my family. We love the industry, the business, all of that. But like you mentioned, I think there is a price point at some point where someone could come along. And if it's good for my family, then I want to be able to say, hey, this is great for my family. We need to do what we need to do and sell the business. But at this point, I think I've given it 10 years. I think that's why I want to get it going. And then in 10 years, either be able to totally step back and have someone else manage the day-to-day, or sell it.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. Upon reflecting, my big takeaway is that Sun River, like so many different destinations, is going through a sea change. There are waves of owners and managers who are just getting started, in the same way there are folks who are leaving the industry for good. The biggest differentiator between those who seem to be doing so profitably and happily is the businesses that have a plan. Knowing exactly what you want from your vacation rental business is the first step to achieving it. Once you have that bold vision, focus less on the end goal and more on the individual steps that are needed to achieve it. Stacy's provided us with a PDF document outlining the 4 qualities Cascara looks for in a home, which you can download at vrmb.com/115. And if Stacy's ideas resonated with you, consider joining her and myself, along with all of our guests and nearly 1,000 other owners and managers, as a member of VRMB communities. We have what we like to consider the world's most thoughtful vacation rental professionals, all under one virtual roof. You can sign up at vrmb.com/sign-up. Until next time.